So hi everyone, my name is Ravi. I'm the co-founder CEO of Zeeve. And today on Web3 Voice, we have a very exciting talk show talking about on-demand data meets Web3, where we have very exciting guests, Dibyo Majumdar, who is the founder of Turf, and Devika Mittal, who is the regional head of Ava Labs. So it has been, we are very excited to partner with Ava Labs as well as Turf, and very excited to delve deeper into this talk show today. So first, before getting into learning more about Turf and how Avalanche support builders, I would request Dibyo and Devika to introduce themselves. Starting with Dibyo, tell us a brief about yourself, how you started your Web3 journey, and how your Web3 journey has been so far.
Absolutely. So hi everyone, this is Dibyo. I'm the founder and CEO of Turf. And yep, about my journey, it's some things that started in 2017. Started off initially contributing to Ethereum with ConsenSys, and that's where everything started. I started off as a developer, obviously, and contributed to the protocol level stuff. And taking it further, I was obviously at that moment, I was in college. And taking it further, in 2021, I started my own venture in studies. That's a decentralized fundraising stack. And that's something that I have scaled to $36 million. So coming from that particular aspect, my Web3 journey boosted up. And by late 2023, I started my journey with Turf. And that's what we are building at this moment. Started off with gaming, now getting into the data infrastructure towards the scale.
So that's a very exciting journey, Dibyo, and I think it must be a big inspiration for a lot of budding entrepreneurs who are seeing this talk show. So now a bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Hi, Ravi. Thank you so much for having us. Very excited about talking about, Avalanche L1s and specifically about what Dibyo is building with Turf here. So I'm Devika. I'm the regional head, as Ravi said, of Ava Labs here in South Asia. Our job is really to find the best projects and to support them and to have them build on Avalanche, whether that's on C-chain or whether that's on their own L1, depending on the use case. So I'm here today to really talk about, what Dibyo is building with Turf and kind of all of the exciting pivots they've had on the way, and why we're really excited to have them in the L1 ecosystem.
No, absolutely. I think that's a great thought and great execution as well. So now getting on to Turf, Dibyo, last when we talked, you were big time into gaming and esports, especially a lot to do with data analytics and how analyzing the data in gaming and esports and use that for the purpose of for the gaming ecosystem. But from that journey, now you have pivoted into a full-fledged horizontal data network. And my assumption is that your learning while building the gaming and esports piece has been quite instrumental in building this data network. So can you give us a bit about the story behind this evolution that happened, how you pivoted into a data network, and what has been your learnings that shaped the Turf network?
Exactly. So this is something really cool that happened when we started off with gaming, powering more and more engagement to games with esports and competitive gaming aspect, right? We were curating the competitive culture into the gaming ecosystem. So from that, where we have curated nearly 400,000 plus gamers distribution network to now getting into data is a very, I would say, a pivotal space to be in, right? So what happened initially was we were doing a lot of competitions, but eventually, in gaming space, the revenue that's getting generated was not that much high. What we did is like, hey, what all we can do to actually bring on better revenue to our systems? That's where the whole data aspect came into the picture. Hey, we had a lot of gameplay data, people competing against each other. What exactly we can do with it? So we looked into with more AI coming into the picture, where most of these data these days are getting consumed by AI for training or post-training contexts, right? So we thought like, hey, humans are playing these games, right? We have the recordings. Can we create embeddings which can be used in different verticals? So that's where from the gameplay data, we took, so humans' cognitive intelligence is embedded into their gameplay. So we took that embeddings and then helped a robot called Phantom MK1 to train their robots who are going to war, right? So this kind of data sets help them to actually train their whole models. So this experimentation and at the same time, the same gameplay data, like when you're playing, it's an action reaction time that's already there, right? So that same action reaction time can create a separate embedding that can help in the healthcare industry to train, like, hey, if a person have ADHD or not, you can detect it, right? So these kind of healthcare AI and defense care AI have different use cases, but is powered through a single type of data, right? That was the moment for us. That was the inflex point for us. And whenever we did all these deals, this was purely one-on-one deals. There was no distribution network that can facilitate it. Either we have to go to data brokers or there is no different options, right? So we thought, like, why don't we productize the whole funnel in a way that anyone having built any kind of data can distribute it in our platform and any AI, this whole agentic infrastructure, right? Like right now, web surfing is done by agents, right? Agents are doing everything rather than humans going and doing particular things. So they need an autonomous infrastructure that can actually bring context to them. So that's something that actually got us the motivation, and the early PMF around this data pipelines got us more conviction that, hey, this thing can be productized. And given my experience in the Web3 space, to be honest, we know how to build trustless ecosystems that can actually change any industry by making things automatic, right? So bringing
Right.
those experiences together, we are now here with a towards a horizontal expansion in terms of not just gameplay data, but also looking forward towards e-commerce, social interaction data, but everything is directed towards human parameters.
Got it. No, I think that sounds very interesting. First, I thought that, it was still pertaining to data that you gather through gamers and then use that or expand that into various other use cases, like one of the healthcare use cases you mentioned about ADHD. But now
Mhm.
what I gather is it's a full-blown on-demand data network and spanning across verticals. And at the same time, there's a data monetization layer, which
Mhm.
again is something which is very exciting, especially, a lot of privacy data that is being generated, not shared because there's hardly any monetization model today in the Web2
Yeah.
space. And at
Mhm.
the same time, this data is very valuable for people who can use it to either build something, or if they are building something, use it to fine tune it or make it better and
Mhm.
create newer products and newer models. Yeah, no, it's absolutely
Absolutely.
very, very interesting.
Yep.
So Devika, as we have heard from Dibyo about the on-demand data network, and Turf has used Avalanche L1 to power their decentralized network. And we are, very excited to partner with Turf to as a infrastructure provider to launch this. So from the L1 stack perspective, and it's going to be helpful for other builders who are looking to launch their own decentralized networks, as to what are some of the core tenets of Avalanche L1 and other technology components within the Avalanche ecosystem that is a great fit for launching a decentralized network like Turf.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm going to give some answers, and then Dibyo, actually, I would be curious to know if there's anything that I've missed that you think was important for you. So,
Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
I think the biggest one is sovereignty, right? I think when somebody like Dibyo is building something like Turf, what they really don't want is putting their, I mean, they can, right? Putting their data or like millions of data points on a public chain, right? A, there's congestion in the network. B, there's variable gas fees. C, there's a lot of like kind of competing things. And, maybe sometimes the time to finality might be slow because there's too much congestion on the network, which is what can happen on public chains, especially the larger, more popular kind of Ethereum of the world, right? Within Avalanche L1, you don't worry about any of that. You have your own chain, you own it, you decide what you want to do with it. If you want to have a token, you can have a token. If you want to be gas free, you can be gas free, right? You can abstract away the gas layer. If you want to be public or private, you can do that. If you want to be permissioned or permissionless, you can do that. If you want to allow only certain validators, right, as permission, like you can do that. If you want to have only one kind of product on the chain, you can do that. You want to have 1 million, you can do that too, right? You literally have your own Avalanche C chain or your own Ethereum or your own Solana, and it's yours, right? And it works, right? It's been battle tested. You're not building from scratch. You're not trying to figure out all of this thing because you want this sovereignty. You want to set up the chain the way you want to set it up. And the second thing is you want it to be able to handle your data, right? So it's sovereign. Second, can it handle my load? Right. With an Avalanche L1, depending on how you're setting it up, you can go anywhere between 4,500 transactions a second to almost 100,000 transactions a second, right? I think it really kind of depends on how it's being set up, what the tools you're using in the toolkit. So again, when you're looking at something like Turf, you need something that can handle millions of data points, right? And that can actually put them on the block in real time without any congestion, without any delays. That's incredibly important for the network to work and for there to be, strong trust in the data that's being put on the blockchain. So I think that's the second one. I think the third one, and if you tell me if this isn't true, I think we just make it super easy. It's you have an L1 and you can choose, various PaaS providers, so blockchain as service providers. Zeeve is, one of our favorites and my favorite. So, you work with Zeeve and Zeeve helps you set it up. And essentially it's an AWS model, right? You have a blockchain, but it's kind of an AWS model. You pay a monthly fees and everybody, they run it for you. They manage all of it and you can really focus on building. So it's kind of like having, microservices in gaming. Going back to Dibyo's kind of conversation about gaming, they're all like microservices in payments, right? You want to build a Shopify website, but you don't want to build the Shopify infrastructure. You want to just build the website. You want to sell your product. And then you want to sell your product, but you don't want to figure out how to do payments. So then you want to use Plaid, right? You want to abstract away the core of what it is that you're not building and what you're not selling. When you're, for example, a website, and when you're a business. Here with Turf, Turf can really focus on building what they're building, right? Which is the platform, without having to figure out how do we run our L1, what do we do with it, what do we manage, what are the validators, can it handle my load, will it break down, will there be any network, interruptions? I think I gave a longer answer than I normally give, but I think these are the really big things that I think really make it powerful. So sovereignty, right, handles the load, and 3, like, pretty easy. So like, correct me if I'm wrong, be honest with me, tell me if I'm bullshitting, and tell me if I've missed something.
That's absolutely the scenario. And one of the things that I can totally resonate with, the congestion aspect that you mentioned. Let's say if there is an L1, right, and you are deploying your whole infrastructure that's very much use case specific, and still your transaction that's getting submitted is competing with the DEX because just there is a huge volume that's coming in, right? So being use case specific, I would say having the control over a network and at the same time executing things in a decentralized manner is something that we got. And one of the crucial aspects, I would say, like in this whole funnel of having the customization that we need is what we got with Avalanche L1 ecosystem. So we are evolving like a pre-compiled distributed network state, right? So just like Hyperliquid, all the data pipeline infrastructure from intent destructuring to aggregation to transformation to loading, right? Everything's are microservices that are pre-compiled into the virtual machine. So these things are something that we need control on so that we can make sure that the whole process is smooth. And at the same time, I just don't want that if there is a huge volume that's coming onto any of the DEXs into the network, I'm facing errors for that. So yep, I totally resonate with that and love to be, and obviously the end goal, the ecosystem that's in-house, right? That's something that I totally vouch upon.
Right. No, I think Dibyo, you and Devika, I think you have made excellent points about the usage of L1 stack here. Like Devika mentioned about sovereignty, and then, your choice whether you want to launch a complete permissionless chain to permission and somewhere in between. And she also mentioned about high throughput, low latency kind of networks, which you can do tens of thousands of TPS easily on Avalanche L1 stack. And she also mentioned about how easy it is to deploy and launch and build and get to go to market. And Dibyo, as you rightly said, the whole concept of launching an app chain or application specific chain is to see how you can have your own dedicated block space and you are not competing with block space on a public chain. In addition to that, I would love to, because we work with so many builders who are launching their L1 with us, just like to add a few more points about L1 stack. One is the whole validator network. So as Turf is building a decentralized network of data and data being something very critical and highly valuable entity, having a very decentralized network over a period of time becomes very important. It's very easy to set up a validator network, launch your own validator within on the chain and making it more and more decentralized. We, in fact, at Zeeve, we provide one-click validator network. So anyone, as Turf is going to open their network for external validators to launch their validators, they can easily use our platform in just one click without any tech knowledge to deploy their own validator node and strengthen the Turf ecosystem. Then in your app chains and application specific blockchains, you have predictable gas fee. You can have your own configurations. And one of the challenge that has been talked time and again is that how user experience is still a challenge in Web3 applications. Now with today having account abstraction, having your own dedicated app chain where you can have your own set of configurations depending on your use case, I think it makes it very, very easy for someone to have a chain which is very high on user experience, highly configurable to their app chains. And at the end of the day, it serves the use case that the chain has been built for. In addition to that, we have 60 plus integrations, whether it be interoperability with other networks or other ecosystems, whether it be account abstraction, interop oracles, or on-ramp, off-ramp, any kind of, because each startup, depending on the use case, does require some external integrations from time to time as they move on. And with all these integrations available for your Avalanche L1 stack, I think it makes it super, super easy. And to top it all, I would love to mention here that Avalanche ecosystem support is top notch. Once you plan to build within the Avalanche, there's a massive ecosystem support. There are grants, incentives. There are experts who are going to help you in your journey while building the product, while taking the product to the market. Interactions with other ecosystem players everywhere. I think there's a massive, massive Avalanche ecosystem support that you can, lean on. Yeah. So just to add few points to what Devika and Dibyo mentioned. Now, moving forward, so Dibyo, we learned about Turf network. We also learned how you pivoted into creating an on-demand data network, which is AI driven. So one, would like to understand more about your core value proposition and how it differs from a traditional data network. And in addition to that, you have described Turf as more than a product. It's like a paradigm of how agents interact with the data in the data network. So can you give us a use case or an anecdote that illustrates, the impact of Turf when it's just working behind the scenes?
Absolutely. So this is something really cool that happened, right? So whenever we talk about our product, right, it started with a thesis of human interactions are going to change, right? Human interactions are going to happen through agents rather than human directly going and web surfing. Agents are going to do that for them, right? So when we see the agentic infrastructure scaling, right, what what exactly agents do, right? Whenever someone is developing an agent, two fundamental things that they need to care about is what an agent should know and what an agent can do, right? The intelligence operations and the context. So we are the context providers. So whenever an agent need any specialized data, context specific data, they need to rely on certain specific data sets that can be consumed to and help them to do some operations. So whenever it comes to the intelligence part, obviously with all these GPTs into the picture, right, all these LLMs that's getting developed and any of the neural networks, they got the intelligence part sorted. And till from zero to till date, everything in the AI space happened just because of algorithmic shifts, at the same time having an abundance of compute, right? We all have that. What we don't have is the context specific data, right? Every time you search in Claude, they are search and do a deep research, they are searching in 350 plus MCP servers across the internet, right? They have access to, right? Or they are consuming multiple data fronts from multiple data brokers to actually serve your answers. So what we do is, like, whenever even companies like Claude and OpenAI, they are having a human team that's actually gathering data from multiple different fronts for them. So whenever this whole operations need to be done by AI agents, if there is a human being who is bringing context specific data for them, it's the biggest bottleneck, right? It actually hinders the operation of how an agent should work out. So that's where Turf comes in, right? Turf make this whole process autonomous. So what we have done is we have removed human labeling with two aspects of data transformations and models as judge. These two together can benchmark different data and can create multiple set of data in brute force manner so that it can see like, hey, this thing crosses your benchmark. You can actually use this data to answer or do any activity that you want, right? So it just with the philosophy, I would say the conceptualization of Bitcoin of whoever hits the hash rate first and get this many zeros, they gets their reward, right? Their block gets mined. The same aspect of using compute and removing human power is what we are doing. That makes this whole process autonomous. And since we have a benchmarking service that's again powered by AI, that's something we are bringing in. And with every single transaction that we carry out, right? Every time there is an aggregation, transformation, and loading happening, right? with every single transaction, we are powering up our own AI code that efficiently maps and gets better and better day by day. So if an agent needs very much context-specific data regarding gaming, right? They know where to look, how to bring, what to transform, and bring it, and how to bring it. So this is something that makes us super different. Let's say there are multiple platforms already available, literally like Snowflake. They are one of the biggest giants in Web2 ecosystem, Scale AI, having abundance of data and transforming it for OpenAI, right? These all interactions are happening by human. We don't want that. So to be honest, we in our competitive landscape, there are four quadrants, and in the top right corner, we were the only one who were doing this. Now, if you recently heard about parallel AI, so Twitter's ex-CEO also got into data orchestration business. So that got released in 15 days ago and now added to our quadrant of competitive landscape. So this is something this whole agent economy is looking forward, and we are the context providers.
Got it. No, I think this is super, super interesting, very insightful. And at the same time, I think you have articulated it very well. Really something which I think key takeaway, I would say, to understand more deeply how the context specific data, how it creates the whole economy, whether it be on the monetization side, building the context-based data structure that can be utilized in various use cases and as well as verticals. No, I think this is pretty cool. So, Devika, now we are seeing there's a massive demand for customizable infrastructure. There are a lot of interesting use cases coming in, whether it be RWA, DePIN. We are seeing a lot of use cases within AI and Web3. And people are launching their own custom app chains or custom L1s. In fact, today morning I read a news about how Google is launching their own L1 after Stripe and Circle announced their own fintech specific L1. So, we would like to know, how Avalanche is helping modular builders like Turf, not just with the tech stack, but also in other ways as part of the ecosystem to differentiate and scale globally. And what kind of, use cases are you seeing which are emerging who are embracing Avalanche L1?
Yeah, so I think with Avalanche, what we really pride ourselves on is the fact that we try to go beyond just grant support, right? So yes, of course, for builders, there may be grants, there might be investments, but what we really want to go beyond is actually provide them with other support, right? Whether that's tech support. So we have a DevRel team. I believe Dibyo and his team are quite often in touch with our DevRel team, and they're quite responsive for the most part. That's something that often, large chains like, at the level of an Avalanche often don't have, right? Builders are kind of building in the dark and they don't really know what to do when things break. The second is actually providing ecosystem support. So I think this is quite important, right? I think, for example, Dibyo recently wanted to connect with a team called Avalanche, right? So, we help facilitate that. So if there's any point where they want to raise funds, right, what we do is we actually have a dedicated person on our team now, Brian, who looks at just helping our ecosystem projects fundraise, right? So his entire job is helping a project like Turf that has an incredible product and like has traction actually go to the right investors that we know would be passionate about his kind of project and helping support that process. So that's actually again a very, very hands-on thing, which I don't know if other ecosystems have. Some might have some of these. I'm not sure if anybody has all of these, right? In terms of looking at use cases, I think what's really cool about Avalanche is that there is no niche segment and there is no niche industry that it specifically appeals to, the way that, for example, an other chain might. So some chains are like, oh, that's the gaming chain, right? Or that's the infra chain, or that's the DeFi chain. What we're seeing now is that because you can have your own chain and it could be anything, right? It could be the gaming chain, the DeFi chain, the infra chain, the turf chain. You're seeing all kinds of use cases. So it really depends on what are the narratives that are driving the market at that moment. And you'll see all of that on Avalanche, if not more. But of course, I think there are a couple of kind of key spaces where we see a lot of activity. One is RWAs. So again, when you look at RWAs, you need a very, very institutional focused, compliant platform, right? And a compliant blockchain. So Avalanche is very well suited specifically for something like the RWA kind of play, right? Whether that's land tokenization in Dantewada, whether that is putting all land records in Bergen County and all sales of real estate assets in Bergen County on chain, whether that's California DMV, right? You see RWA is really winning. Gaming, again, it's something that needs very high throughput, very low latency, very quick time to finality. So you see a lot of gaming. You see a lot of infra. So I would actually put maybe Turf in kind of AI planned or infra, right? So you're seeing a lot of infra, you're seeing a lot of AI. Again, because these are specific needs that people have, that very few products that are not L1 can address. So I think that's kind of what I'm seeing. Right? There's everything. There's DePIN, there's everything. But these are the ones that I really am excited about. These are what I see. And I believe that's kind of what we help bring to the market.
No, I think very well put. You're right. All the builders that we work with, there are quite a few enterprises who are launching. You are using L1 to launch a enterprise grade network with permission set of validators, privacy features, compliances, as you rightly said, and then, bringing all necessary critical integrations. And then we have, builders from DeFi, payments, we have gaming, a lot of startups who are working in the enterprise space with enterprise use cases, whether it be DPP or supply chain traceability. Very, very exciting use cases people are building, very varied. And yet at the same time, L1 makes it's so flexible, it makes it very easy, configure, customize, and extend to serve
Exactly.
various use cases. No, I think it's pretty cool out there. So now, since we are coming to the end of our session, one last question, Dibyo, a bit about, what is next for, if you can tell us anything as part of your roadmap, some of the upcoming features, milestones, and second, how various stakeholders, whether it be developers, creators, or other B2B stakeholders who would want to be part of the turf ecosystem, how they can be part of. Dibyo, I think you're on mute.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. Yeah, am I
Okay.
audible now? Yes. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there have been some interesting updates from our end. First level is we have already released our testnet with Zeeve, and we have started operations on top of it. And especially, we have our beta dashboard live where people can go and create their own data agents and start monetizing their data agent. So if you just go to beta.turf.network, and obviously we are rolling out in a whitelisting basis. If anyone is looking up to this video and need to understand this whole data infrastructure, they don't have to read anything. Just go in beta.turf.network, give us the email, DM us. We can actually give you access, and you can curate your own data segments, right? Whenever you create your own data sets, you have the ability to monetize it. And at the same time, anyone who is building on AI, anyone who is building agentic interfaces can have context with our protocols. So even if you know about Symmetry, right? Symmetry is one of the biggest MCP server registries. 100 plus data models and their registry is coming to Turf for monetization. So we will be launching all these things. And at the same time, with Avalanche, there is this hackathon that's coming up, and we will be encouraging more builders to actually come in, curate their own data agent on top of our network, and start monetization. If you're not a data curator, you can literally go forward and use the data APIs, pay per query, and leverage this whole massive ecosystem of data for building whatever agents you want for the world of AI. So yes, these are the few things that we are totally up to. And one of the core roadmaps that we have in terms of business is to complete 2 million GDV transacted on chain with the data that we are bringing in collaboration with a lot of companies.
Got it. No, I think super interesting, very exciting roadmap, and we wish you all the best. So, I would like to say to all the builders who are listening to this talk show, so anyone who is a data curator or building an AI agent, data consumer, do try the Turf ecosystem, connect with Dibyo, connect with their team to see how they can help you become part of this on-demand data-driven network. And if you're planning to launch your own L1, do connect us at Zeeve. We will help you not just in consulting as to how to set up your L1 based on your use case or vertical, but we'll also help you deploy your network, manage it, and ongoing support. And if you want to understand how Avalanche is helping builders with their ecosystem support, do connect with Devika, and she will be able to help you anything what you want, not just from the tech perspective, but beyond tech, as you rightly said, whether it be ecosystem support, whether it's GTM, whether it be discussions with domain experts, and I can vouch for this. A lot of our partners and clients have talked to various domain experts, whether it be RWA or AI within the Avalanche ecosystem. So it's an amazing ecosystem, and do try it out. With that, thanks Dibyo, thanks Devika for joining us. I think it has been a very insightful and very exciting session today to learn more about Turf and how Avalanche L1 is making inroads into builders and making waves. Thank you. Thanks again for joining.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
Thanks a lot.